Regional Consultant here for Wisconsin Literacy, and we are so glad that you've joined us today for our final offering in our fall virtual conference. And we have a wonderful session planned for you, but first a little bit of housekeeping. And I've been mentioning that even though you're muted, you will have a way to talk with us, and that is in the chat box. If you have not used GoToMeeting or even Zoom, because it's sort of the same thing, you'll see a little orange box up at the top. You may have the full thing showing, but if you only see a little orange arrow or a white arrow in an orange box, if you click on that, it will open. You'll see the attendance, and then at the very bottom, you'll see the chat box. And if you put your cursor there, you can type your questions. And we do have some Wisconsin literacy staff who are going to be monitoring those questions for us, and we will be answering your questions at the end. So you'll have time to jot down questions in that chat box all through the session today. We are recording today's session, and so if you have staff members or volunteers who couldn't get into the session because it filled, or who just didn't have time to do it today, you will find it on our website under the Fall Conference tab, and it will be there along with all the other sessions. And we'll also be posting this PowerPoint so that you'll be able to see the links that we're including. So I think that is everything that we need to take care of now. I am very excited to introduce our two presenters. So the next screen, please. I want you to welcome Cynthia Zarazua and Caitlin Lewis, both from Neighborhood House. And Cynthia, you want to wave so they know who, there's Cynthia. And Caitlin, wave, hello, there she is. Hello. And they will be taking us through their virtual learning that they put together for lower level learners. So it's all up to you, ladies, take it away.
Thank you, Marcia. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to Wisconsin Literacy for inviting us to present today. I am here with my colleague, Caitlin Lewis, and as Marcia mentioned, we're going to discuss virtual learning for low-level learners. Neighborhood House of Milwaukee's International Learning Program provides adult refugees with English language learning, citizenship, digital literacy, and math numeracy instruction. We also provide pre-employment services as we guide our refugees towards self-sufficiency. A refugee is a person outside his or her country of nationality who is unable or unwilling to return due to a well-founded fear for a reason of race, religion, nationality, member in a particular social group, or political opinion. Next slide, please. On March 13th, we were thrown into an unknown and very tragic quagmire of COVID-19. That day resulted in our organization furloughing its staff until April 27th. Upon our return, we spent the rest of the spring session not in class, but conducting a comprehensive student needs assessment and an enormous amount of case management. These are some of the questions on the assessment. Are you in need of food? And are you in need of masks, being two of the most important ones? We were very pleased to find in our assessment that our students were actually faring reasonably well. Next slide, please, Anna. Our students are refugees fleeing war-torn countries, and they know quite a bit about laying low and hunkering down. So teachers spent the time preparing for summer session by learning how to operate these digital platforms. Next slide, please. And initially we used a variety of them. We were test driving these various platforms, but ultimately we settled for Zoom, which is what all of our instructors are using today. So we came back on the 27th, dealt with case management and this needs assessment and getting PPE and food, et cetera, to our students. But summer session was quickly looming, and we needed to do something, and we needed to do something very quickly. We needed an accessible visual platform that personalized our center, our staff, and our students. Next slide, please. Oh, here we go. MATC instructor Jean Ritchie had been using a site that she created off of Google Sites for a couple of years for students in her class as part of her digital literacy curriculum. I drooled over Teacher G's site and asked her too many times if we could buy it, if we could barter for it, or some such, all to no avail. She never felt that it was ready for an expanded usage or for even other people viewing it. Then came COVID-19. And we got really lucky. Some really good things came out of this pandemic. And one was Teacher Jean graciously and generously giving us her site, her teacher's page. And next slide, please. MATC instructor Sally Kuzma took the page, expanded it to where all of our instructors can utilize it. And let's take a little little look at our digital literacy website. And if you could please click on Sally's. There you go. And if you could please scroll down, Anna. This is our title page. It tells who we are, what we do, and who to contact. Announcements, please, Anna. Next to home. We typically do announcements on site on Monday evenings and Tuesday mornings, but we're not on site. So we utilize our digital literacy website to make announcements. This first announcement is about a conversation class at Milwaukee Public Library with Teacher Sally. I'm really excited about this opportunity for our students. First, it allows them to speak more. And in this age of ELL, citizenship, digital literacy, math, numeracy, civics, etc., our students don't get a lot of opportunity to just talk. So here they can go to the Milwaukee Public Library, which is a great place to hang out, and with a teacher who they're familiar with, and practice speaking their English. Richard Rodriguez writes, go across town, read, change. And we're hoping this activity allows our students to do that. Please scroll down, Anna. If you are a citizen and you want to vote, please call up Tony. He will help you register to vote. Please scroll. And flu season is near. I've gotten my flu shot. We also post, we have a new food pantry due to the pandemic and the food shortages in neighborhood houses participants in the surrounding vicinity. We now have a food pantry that our students can frequent and have frequented on numbers of occasions. And we also like students to know about scams. And this is a notice about a text from some nefarious person claiming there's a package at United States Postal Service and we need your credit card information in order to release the package. So we utilize our site for announcements as well. Please continue, Anna. Let's go to teacher sites. And scroll down and you will see a list of teachers' class times. Next category, please, Anna. We have various topics on this side. If you could please scroll down, Anna. And this is one about computers. One thing that I really appreciate about this site is that teachers have the capacity to create quizzes and submit them to their students online. If you could please click, Anna, computer quiz number 2. And please scroll down. And here's an example of one of our quizzes. At the bottom of this page, there's a submit button shooting this straight to the teacher and allowing the teacher to know who is completing the assignments. And there's the submit button. Thank you. Could we please go to the next category, Anna? I'm sorry. Let's go to the weather, please. And what's it today happening in Milwaukee? Can you please hit Milwaukee today? It's a great day here in Milwaukee. So students can also gain access to the weather. There's also a quiz in this category. Anna, let's go back to more, please, on the website. Thank you. And let's go to at school. I'll show you one more category, at school. Please scroll down to MPS days off and calendars. Thank you. And here we have a listing of the MPS off days and calendars. Please scroll down a little more, Anna. I'm really excited and happy that they have this translated into various refugee languages, Burmese, Karen, Rohingya. Thank you, Anna. We also have on this very same page a list of all of the school supplies needed based on grade level. And Anna, if you could please scroll down to the second quiz, up a little bit. There you go. Thank you, Anna. And here's an example of another quiz based on the supply list on MPS's page. And they're able to look at this receipt, scroll down, please, and complete a quiz about what they viewed on the supply list based on grades. Thank you, Anna. So that's our digital literacy website that teacher Jean Ritchie, MATC instructor, generously gave us. And we're so grateful. And Sally Kuzma expanded. But the germination of this request from Wisconsin Literacy was about viewing Sally Kuzma's page on our digital literacy website. They were moved by her approach to her page, and more importantly, her approach to teaching. Next slide, please, Anna. So this is Parker Palmer's Courage to Teach, one of my favorite books ever, but certainly in this field. And I encourage everyone to read this book if they haven't already, and I hope many, if not most of you have. Here are a few quotes from Mr. Palmer that I'll let you read on your own. And then Anna, if we could please go to the hyperlink right on the underlined. Thank you. And we're going to hear a few minutes of Mr. Palmer's speaking to us.
When we use the word soul, we're reaching for one of the few available words to name that which has no name. We're reaching for the inner mystery of what it means to be human. I sometimes call it the 3 in the morning experience, when you wake up and realize I'm not my role, I'm not my latest failure or success. I am just what? Me. I am a self. In some religious traditions, I am a child of God. I am a created being. And that's all I need by way of justification. There's an inner voice, I think, that wants to keep telling me that. A voice that wants to keep saying, don't get hung up on either your failures or your successes. You have only one gift to give in this world, and that's who you are, your identity and integrity, your selfhood. And stay as close to that gift as you possibly can. Most of us understand that along the line, we're going to find particular forms of giving that gift. We're going to become engineers, or we're going to become parents, or we're going to try to be good citizens, or we're going to be doctors, or hairdressers, or clerks who are helpful, and that there's some skills associated with each of those roles, and that there's knowledge associated with doing each of those roles well. So I'm not blinking the fact that there's work to be done to serve well in the world. But ultimately, the only service I have to render, the only gift I have to give is myself. That mystery that I sometimes call soul and sometimes call spirit and sometimes call identity and integrity. But it's that inwardness from which everything else comes. We know, it's so interesting to me that we want to ignore this inwardness, that we want to ignore I'll call it the education of the heart, always because we're so obsessed with educating people to make the right moves. Every form of professional education I've ever seen is about making the right moves to qualify you as a member of this profession. Well, the truth is there's a secret hidden in plain sight.
Thank you, Anna.
You know that you can move a knife with.
So there you heard a little bit about Mr. Palmer's approach to teaching. If we could please go back to Sally Kuzma. I think it's one up, please, Anna. There you go. So Sally Kuzma embodies the philosophy of Mr. Palmer. His motto, Sally's motto, my motto is, you can't get close enough. 2 slides down, please, Anna. You can't get close enough. And let's go back up to Sally, please, Anna, and click on her hyperlink. So let's look at how teacher Sally embodies, I'm sorry, Anna, the one with Sally's picture. Or we can go here if you like, teacher sites, Sally. There you go. There you go, week 1. Thank you. So let's look at how teacher Sally does this. How she infuses her lessons with her identity and integrity, how she projects the condition of her soul onto her students, subject and way of being together, and how she marries her personal and professional. Let's face it, we all want to learn more about our teachers. Are they married? Do they have children? In my case, why don't they have children? How old are they? Have they ever been to Burma? Learning about one's teacher enamors students to our program and reduces the dreaded teacher-student hierarchy that places teachers in a one-up position. This one-up positioning can hinder learning and keep us from engaging in true dialogue with our students. Please remember, they are adults, we are adults. And if you could please scroll down a little bit, Anna, so we can take a view of Sally's page. Sally's doing her, mine there in this lesson. That first slide showed her introducing her kitties. This slide is inviting students, oh, sorry, Anna. This slide is inviting students to like her Facebook page, and she's using a picture of our community garden just outside our door. She's making an announcement about an on-site activity. She has a quiz pertaining to the garden. Sally is very persistent in creating outdoor classroom spaces, and she's utilized our garden for just that. Here is a quiz she entered about the weather in the garden. Please continue, Anna. Fruit they found in our garden. These are pictures actually from our garden. And please continue. Oh, let's see, Anna, just a snippet, please. Can you click on that video link where Sally introduces people to her kitty cats? Thank you.
Anna, we can't hear the video.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not sure I'm gonna, hang on, let me.
Cats in my life.
There you go. Thank you.
Kittens in our house. They are, there's a girl and a boy. Her name is Pippa, and his name is Ziggy.
Thank you, Anna.
Are crazy, and they want to go.
So there's Sally sitting on the porch of her house, introducing her students to her new kitties. Please continue. Then Sally does something pretty amazing. She takes our school to our students. They can't come to us. We're teaching virtually, but Sally takes our school to our students. These are all pictures of students in our classes. There's Boumé, Caitlin's elder citizenship student who recently, after 4 tries, became a US citizen. And these are pictures of our holiday party, all while she's teaching his, her, mine, and their. So our students love seeing their photographs on these teacher sites. Our students love seeing their colleagues and classmates on these sites. And our teachers love seeing we as staff on these sites because they're not here to see us in person. So Sally has actually placed herself into her lessons, but also very gratefully to me, placed our school into her lessons. Thank you, Anna. So upon entering this field, I planned a party for students. And if you could go one more slide, please, down. Okay, I planned a party for students. I was sharing with a friend of mine who had many more years in the field that I was planning this party. And Colleen asked me, where are you gonna have it? And I said, at school. And Colleen said, Cynthia, you are not having that party at your school. That party will be held at your home. She said, many, maybe most, maybe all of your students have never ever been inside of an American's home. Many of them will never have the opportunity to be inside of an American's home. You're not having that party at your home, at your school, Cynthia. You are having it at your home. And I did. Colleen thought I was giving our students a gift by allowing them to come into mine and Paul's home, but they were actually giving me a gift. The reactions to our home were stunning. Svetlana walked around our house at least 4 times, touching many things, and she would say, teacher, teacher, oh, teacher. She sat down and with her arms motioned to everything and said, this is my dream. I never expected that reaction and was very glad that she enabled me to have it. So my partner, Paul, down there, has over 2,000 records, many from Africa. When he played Papa Wemba and Nico from the Congo, Orchestra Baobab and Youssou N'Dour from Senegal, and Fela Kuti and King Sunny Ade from Nigeria, our students freaked out. Next slide, please, Anna. The furniture was moved, shoes were kicked off, the sound was turned up, and the dancing began. You're not having that party at your school, Cynthia. You're having it at your home. And there are our students dancing to African music. All of that being said, there is one example where perhaps I overshared. 2 students were very late for class. They walked in and the class immediately shamed them silently by turning their heads and looking at them. The 2 students were really excited and animated, and they were very apologetic, saying, but teacher, teacher, we had our citizenship interviews and we passed. Hooray, roar, congratulations. And I exclaimed, hallelujah, Jesus. One student of mine said, teacher, you don't belong in Jesus. I couldn't argue. The next slide, please, Anna. And here are the 2 students who walked in late to class, Soa Gay and Too Paw, who did become US citizens, and this is them registering to vote. Before I leave you and turn it over to Caitlin, I wanted to share with you our latest activity here at Neighborhood House International Learning Program. We were fortunate enough to be selected to participate in Welcoming America, which is a national effort to bring communities together. From their website, just as fertile soil is needed for a seed to grow, welcoming communities foster a culture and policy environment that makes it possible for newcomers of all backgrounds to feel valued and fully participate alongside their neighbors in the social, civic, and economic fabric of their adopted homes. So ILP staff, students, members of the church upstairs, members of Victory Garden, Urban Eden garden outside our doors, neighborhood houses, land stewardship program, and a few people from the neighborhood. We utilized the resources to do a combined effort. We did a complete overhaul of our landscaping outside. Anna, if you could please go to the next slide. And this is what it looked like: dead bushes, dishevelment. There's no identifying where one thing ends and another begins. So we did a complete landscaping overhaul that took over a month, meeting with students weekly to tear up this ground. And we combined that with an ephemeral photo installation based on JR's Inside Out project. Inside Out is a temporary photo exhibition where JR gets in a bus, travels the world, takes pictures of common folks, and places them on large backgrounds. Inside Out uses photography as a vehicle for change by literally putting a face to an issue. JR's team travels the world and takes photographs of folks. Next slide, please, Anna. So this is the then, and this is the now. This is our new grounds renovation, and the Inside Out project, black and white photographs of our citizenship students who are soon to become citizens and those who have already completed citizenship. The photos were taken by local videographer Dina Aronson. They're about 30-ish by 50-ish inches, and they're rather large. When one sees photos of this size, they're taken of famous people, celebrities, leaders. But our students are also the leaders, paving the way to welcome others and contributing to our society in meaningful and lasting ways. Too often people underestimate the value of our participants like ours and yours, and Dina's dignified photos allow our participants to say, look what I've done for my community. I'm a leader too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are you finished, Cynthia?
I am. Thank you, Caitlin. This is my colleague, Caitlin Lewis, and she's going to share more information about herself and her role here and her projects.
Good. Okay, thank you, Cynthia. And good morning. Oh, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Wisconsin Literacy for having us today. My name is Caitlin Lewis. I am a citizenship instructor here at International Learning Program, which we also call ILP. Just in case you hear me call it ILP later on, I'm talking about our school. And today I'm going to talk about our transition from in-person learning to remote learning and what we did, where we are today, and where we plan to go in the future with our remote learning due to the coronavirus pandemic. Next slide, please. So for our very first attempt, or well, my very first attempt for summer 2020 session, I wasn't really sure what was going to work best for our students. I had sat in a lot of digital literacy and remote learning webinars. Actually, one of my favorites was the Thursday morning coffee break that Wisconsin Literacy puts on every week. And I heard from a lot of different organizations around the southeastern Wisconsin area, and heard what they were doing. And that helped to inspire me that people are doing things remotely and providing case management remotely. So I started to believe that I could do it. I just wasn't sure what it was going to look like at the time. So for my very first attempt, I started with calling students, and so did some of our ESL teachers. Citizenship is one of our most popular programs, so our classroom sizes are much larger than our ESL classroom sizes. So this worked well for the small classes with about 8 to 14 students. Their teachers were able to talk to them on the phone for 15 to 20 minutes and have that phone practice with them each week. This was very beneficial for our students because they don't always get to practice speaking in English on the phone. Even when they call our center, Typically, they ask for TPAW, our bilingual support specialist. Even our highest levels, if I answer the phone, they're going to ask for T, and it takes some coaxing to get them to speak to me in English. So being their teacher and being able to speak with them directly on the phone and having them practice that phone skill was an amazing confidence builder for them. Unfortunately, this did not work for large classes. So for my citizenship class that had 22 students in, I spent the whole first week calling all of my students and designing my digital literacy website. Citizenship meets once a week for 2 hours, so I was not able to perform a lot of my other job duties because I was calling students. So after 1 week of that, I knew this wasn't going to work. Anna, could you click on my digital literacy website? Oh, sorry, not next slide. Can you go back and go to the digital literacy website? Thank you. So I want to show you this. This was week 1. It was pretty bare bones. It took me a while to sort of figure out what I was doing with the digital literacy website. I was lucky to have the shell from Teacher Jean, but I still wasn't sure how I was going to use it. Now, Anna, can you go to week 2, if you see on the top? Or no, week 2, yeah. So by week 2, I called some of the ESL teachers and said, what are you doing? What do you like to do? And as Anna scrolls, you can see I started to include YouTube videos. Students had let me know they really loved YouTube videos for studying. So I put some practice reading and writing. And at the very bottom, one of our teachers taught me how to create Google quizzes by using Google Forms, as Cynthia showed us earlier. And this was a wonderful way for us to track attendance for our students. So before week 1, the only way I could track attendance was by calling each student and making sure they're doing their homework. Week 2, I had a quicker way to track attendance, but the activities were still only asynchronous, and I no longer had that direct communication and direct interaction with our students. And I can go back to the slide now. Okay, and I also created a Facebook page as a way for students to contact me directly and to put our announcements on that page. As Cynthia said, we weren't able to have our announcements, and I just wanted another way for students to contact me. I knew not all of our students had their own cell phone. Some have computers, some use email, some do not. So Facebook was a very popular way for students to reach out. And we can go to the next slide. And so my second attempt, after calling, took too much time. After 2 weeks, I decided I'm going to try and move my classroom on Zoom. And before I even talk about moving my classroom on Zoom, I have to give a big thank you to T-Paw. This is our bilingual support specialist. She took on the Herculean task of calling the 2 citizenship classes I was teaching. She called about 40 students and explained to them how to download Zoom, how to get into a Zoom meeting, how to turn on their camera, and how to turn on their microphone. And the very first time I tried teaching on Zoom, and this was our 8:30 class, which is our lowest level citizenship class, I was expecting about maybe 8 students if I was lucky, and to my surprise, when I opened up Zoom, I had 16 out of 22 students in the first Zoom classroom. I was so excited. I was happy to see everyone. Everyone was happy to see each other. I got to meet some of their family members who are also assisting their parents to get on Zoom. Our refugee community, most of our students live in multi-generational households. So whether it be young children from the age of 10 who are helping their parents get on Zoom, or their grown children who are also living with them, I got to meet their family members as their family members assisted the students to get onto our Zoom classroom. And this was, for me, for the benefits, the sense of community we were able to build in the Zoom classroom was astounding. And for the first time in months after the shutdown, I finally felt like we had a sense of normalcy, a sense of connection to be all together again in the same place. And also a great benefit was being on Zoom with them took way less time than calling each student individually. We could have our 2-hour class and be done, and then they could do their homework on the digital literacy website. There were some drawbacks, background noise. Right now during this presentation, everyone is muted. It's very easy for me to concentrate. In a Zoom classroom, I like to have a lot of student interaction. I work off the model. I like students to be talking 70% of the time, and for myself to only be talking 30. For our lower levels, sometimes it's more 50-50. So I like to keep students unmuted most of the time, unless there's very loud noises in their background, then it can cause a lot of chaos and a little bit more hectic than what would be in a normal classroom. But I've somewhat become an expert at muting and unmuting students. But then that led to our next problem, the mute button issues. On Zoom, if you mute somebody, when you can mute them without them pressing anything, but then when you want to unmute them, they also have to hit the notification on their screen that says unmute. I would try and explain to my students when I wanted them to unmute themselves what to hit, and sometimes they could just not figure it out. They could still hear me for the whole entire classroom, but I would not be able to hear them until next week when they entered into the Zoom classroom. And the third issue we had was poor connection. This shows up as sometimes there's a lag in between when they speak and when you hear them. So you may ask a question to a student, wait, can you hear us? Wait, move on to the next student. Well, you move on to the next student, somebody else starts to answer, and then all of a sudden you hear that original student's voice, and you're like, oh, well, okay, there they are. So there were some drawbacks, but after that first week, I really felt like the benefits outweighed the drawbacks, so I decided to continue with our Zoom classrooms. Can you go to the next slide, Anna? And here's a picture of our Zoom classrooms. This is kind of what it looks like. I like to keep the students in gallery view. You can change the settings of how you view people. There's speaker view, where you see the person who's talking. Because we have 22 students, I like gallery view, so I can see everyone's faces and kind of see who's listening, who's following along, who looks confused. We are also lucky that in our 8:30 class, we have 4 married couples. So that means if I get 4 of those people on, I actually have 8 students in our class. So that has been a side benefit of having so many wonderful married couples in our classrooms. Anna, can you go to the next slide? So what we learned after 8 weeks of having classes on Zoom, I was gearing up for the fall semester. We had decided we were going to be completely virtual again for fall, and although the summer semester had a lot of good to it, I knew there was ways we could still refine and do better going into fall. And one of the things was, I don't have this bullet point on there, I just remembered it today when I was practicing, was we actually shortened our Zoom classrooms, because we do have the digital literacy website and we have activities there for them to do on their own at home. What we found was the 2-hour Zoom classes were exhausting. They're exhausting for the students and they were exhausting for the teachers. So we found the sweet spot was really 1 hour and 15 minutes to 1.5 hours maximum. And that kept us all feeling happy and excited about class and not feeling drained. I'm an extrovert. Typically after a 2-hour in-person class, I am just thrilled and happy and excited to see my students. After 2 hours on Zoom, I was exhausted. I needed a nap or another cup of coffee. So that is one of our best practices we found with Zoom classrooms, is to shorten them and also then have them complete some asynchronous activities on their own at home. The second thing we found that would work well going into fall. So we had 2 citizenship classrooms on Zoom, but 2 citizenship classrooms were still only doing packets. So students would take a packet home and bring it back. Again, that was only asynchronous activities, and we really wanted to get all of our citizenship classrooms onto Zoom. So T-Paw, who took on that task of calling all of the individual students, we said, okay, let's not put so much on you. Let's try and do this all at one time. So we actually had on-site outdoor demonstrations for our students. So you can see in the top picture, we would have half the class, so 10 to 12 students, would come and meet in our garden for about 1 hour, and we would show them how to download Zoom, and we would also help them enter into a Zoom meeting. So they would have that practice on site, and we could help to build those building blocks for them. So then when they went home, they would have a better understanding how to do it, and we wouldn't have to rely so heavily on T. And we created picture-based instructions for students to take home as well. Just a small sample in the bottom right-hand corner, we would show a picture of the text they get from the teacher, and we would circle what they're supposed to click. And then in the on-site demonstration, we would show with our fingers how we click it. Of course, for that very first week, we had 4. Even the 2 that were already on Zoom, we were having them come in, and we were going to meet outside to still do some Zoom tips for them to teach them how to mute and unmute themselves when they were in class. Unfortunately, the 8:30 class I teach got rained out, and it was an unexpected rainstorm. All the week leading up, it was sunny, 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 but in typical Wisconsin fashion, I woke up to 7 a.m. in the morning, a big thunderstrike, and I was like, what do I do now? I did not have the protocols in place to really move students inside safely. Because I didn't have those protocols in place, I just didn't feel comfortable. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing before we brought students inside. So at 7:45 a.m., I started calling every single one of my students to say, don't come to ILP school, class on the computer, class on the computer. And I started texting each one of the students the link to Zoom. Luckily, the 8:30 class was the class that was already on Zoom, so I was hoping T wouldn't be inundated too much with too many phone calls. We got 19 out of 22 with a 20th joining right at the end, and I was thrilled. Once again, a last-minute change to a Zoom classroom on a Tuesday morning with a rainstorm, and we got almost the whole class onto Zoom. And so after class, I called T and I said, thank you, T. Thank you for helping my students get onto Zoom. And to my surprise, only one of those 20 students, and that one being the new student, all 19 who were return students, got onto that Zoom classroom by themselves. And it gave me, I was kind of going into fall semester a little bit anxious about how a full 16 weeks was going to be online, but that first class, going online, going on Zoom, unexpectedly getting 19 students in there with them doing it on their own and them being the lowest level learners in our school gave me hope. Okay, we can do it. We're going to make it through this semester. Another best practice I have is texting students the link each week, and also creating recurring meetings so the ID number does not change. Even though the ID number does not change, I still individually text the students every week. I know with myself, my text messages get buried quickly. I get a lot of texts, and then it takes a while for me to scroll through. With low-level learners, we want them to have the information they need right at their fingertips. So that's why I continually text them every single week. And one other thing we did was we took off the passcode and the waiting room. Unfortunately, as of September 27th, Zoom says you have to choose a passcode or a waiting room. We chose a waiting room because the passcode was more difficult for students. Next slide. And so with the expansion of Zoom, we also started to expand our digital literacy website. And I want to say this is a learning curve. You will need more time in the beginning to learn how all the different applications function. And it is also a collaborative effort with teachers. Teacher Jean, who created the shell of the Google website, saved myself lots of hours of figuring out how to do that. Teacher Jennifer, she showed me how to create Google quizzes from Google Forms. teacher Sally, she showed me how to take the PowerPoints I was creating from class and turn them into voiced over videos. And she was uploading those to her Facebook. And so I went a step further and actually created my own YouTube channel. As you saw from week 2, I was using other YouTube videos, but I was taking so much time to sift through YouTube videos to find ones that worked for my students. I was starting to think I really should create my own. And so, Anna, can you open up the YouTube channel? I have experience. I worked as a high school teacher in a Waldorf school for about 3 years. And they had this concept of warming something, that when you warm something, you're really bringing yourself to it, similar to Parker Palmer and teacher Sally and what Cynthia was talking about earlier. And so when I was looking at these YouTube videos, I found as their teacher, I'm really the expert on our students. And so I know the areas where they need extra help. And the fact that I didn't have to create any additional documents besides what I was already prepping for class to create my own videos inspired me to start creating my own YouTube videos for our students. And then volunteers were inspired by what I created, so they created some reading and writing practice videos, which are the ones in white and black in the bottom right. And they showed me how to underline word by word while I was reading a sentence. So then when I was creating my PowerPoints, I started underlining word by word during my presentation when I would first introduce a new concept, so students could make that connection between the word they saw and the word that they were hearing, and then kind of increase the pace as we were going. My husband, who is also not a native English speaker, I know for him, when I talk to him, it's very easy for him to understand me. When he meets a new person, it's kind of difficult at the beginning to understand them. So I also loved with these videos that the students would be hearing my voice and be hearing their teacher's voice while they were practicing the citizenship material at home. And now, Anna, if you could go back to the slides, and then there should be a second link underneath the YouTube channel that says Digital Literacy Website Now. So this is from our most recent, my most recent week. I've directly embedded the YouTube videos onto the page. And if you keep scrolling down, you can see I have vocabulary words, citizenship civics questions, reading and writing practice, and then there is a quiz. And now I've even learned how to put pictures on the quiz. And at the very bottom, there is a Zoom video recording of the class itself, which has been another benefit of Zoom, is that we can record the class. I'll record small snippets, and I have to just put that into my brain and remember to hit record while I'm teaching. And then I will put the video recordings onto our digital literacy website, or I'll send the recordings directly to students. I'll add them to YouTube and send those to the students who miss, or any students who would like to review what we did in class that week. We can go back to the slides, and I'll go to the next slide. So as I talked about drawbacks, but I want to focus right now on the benefits. Sharon Moo is pictured here with her family. She is a student of mine. She's been in citizenship for about a year. In January, I met with her to do a practice citizenship interview, and she was not ready to apply yet. We are DOJ accredited, so we have an accreditation from the Department of Justice that lets us actually apply for our students, and we act as their accredited representative. So we do not do this without this accreditation. If you apply for somebody without the accreditation, that's actually unauthorized practice of law, and that can get you into trouble. So we are accredited, so that's why we're able to actually complete citizenship applications for our students. I met with Sharon again in May. There had been the shutdown. She still hadn't made much progress. Also, even in the fall semester that was in person, her attendance wasn't that great. And then summer session came along. She was coming to every class. I met with her in August. She was ready to apply for citizenship. And I asked her, you know, what's changed? What have you done studying at home? Like, what do you like to do when you study? And she told me, teacher, I watch your YouTube videos. So it was really wonderful validation for all the hard work I've been putting into creating these YouTube videos, knowing that my students were watching them. And she said, class was now easier for her to attend because she doesn't have her driver's license, so she had to rely on friends or family members to drive her. So if somebody couldn't take her, she couldn't come to class. But with class on Zoom, her kids are always home now because of virtual learning and being MPS students, so somebody can help her get onto Zoom, and now she can get onto Zoom by herself. So again, more benefits, recording the classes, increased digital literacy skills, and I finally created that YouTube page I'd been dreaming about. So you can go to the next slide. So where we are right now, we're still using Zoom classrooms. We actually have volunteers in our Zoom classrooms who hold sessions in the breakout groups to help facilitate one-on-one or small group learning. This is a great way to get students talking and to avoid the lecture style that Zoom classrooms can kind of create if you just have lots of students to one teacher. The downside to it is it does take a lot of time to train volunteers. You have to train volunteers on how to use Zoom, on how to facilitate the activities, and also just training them on student names. As one volunteer told me this morning, a student was labeled iPhone, and she was trying to say, you with the glasses, iPhone, what's your name? And because you can't gesture right at the student just looked at her. And so she had raised her hand for help, so I popped into her Zoom class, and she's like, I don't know this one student's name. And I was like, oh, that's Shartuga. So, okay, she got her name and brought her into the activity. So it is tricky bringing volunteers into Zoom classrooms, but I think it's a worthwhile investment because of the ability to break the classroom down into small groups and still provide that small group instruction like what we would normally have in a classroom. We do have some on-site small group sessions. This is typically just one volunteer with 2 to 3 students. Those sessions are outside, weather permitting, or they can come inside. We have enough space to do that safely with masks, temperature checks, symptom checks, test checks, all of those things we go through before we allow people into the building to ensure safety of everyone. And you can see here, this is actually myself, the top picture, reviewing a citizenship application with one of our students outside in the garden. So it's been nice to work outside. I'm sad that the weather is slowly changing, but I feel good about where we are, at least right now. And yeah, and we will be virtual for the end of this semester. And also it looks like we're going to be virtual going into spring as of right now. We can go to the next slide. And where we go from here. So we're going to continue honing in on what we've already built. We're actually moving our elder citizenship class. So this is a program for refugees 60 and older. We're moving them onto Zoom. I never thought that was going to be possible, but in this picture, this is Kualala, who is 64 years old. He's about to turn 65. Him and his daughter came to the center. I had a meeting with him and his daughter to show them how to get onto Zoom. And he was able to get onto Zoom by himself with his iPad. And he's wearing a mask because we are inside, but you cannot see his beaming smile when he got himself onto Zoom. He was so excited. And it's just exciting to see the students feel like they know what they're doing with this technology and feel competent in using this technology and getting onto Zoom. It helps to build their confidence. We're also going to continue our expansion of a variety of mediums. We have lots of students who are strong in listening but weak on their reading, or vice versa. So we want to make sure we're constantly making virtual activities that help with student comprehension regardless of their learning style. and we are continuing our efforts to center our students in classroom activities. I have the belief that it's not about having students conform to your teaching style. It's about the teachers meeting our students where they are at. And the very last slide, sorry, I know we're almost out of time and I want to save. This is my one last secret to success. This is not a student. This is actually my husband. He is a Tibetan refugee. Way before I even started working at ILP, we met, I was living in India, and we got married in 2017, and we had to go through the immigration process to get him here to be living with me in the United States. I was working as a teacher, and then when I found this job, it was a perfect marriage of my personal life of being married to a refugee and going through the immigration system, and then also being a teacher in my professional life. And on the left, you can see him, he's actually making flashcards for the vocabulary words for our students. He still has to wait another year before he can apply for citizenship, but I like to use him as my little guinea pig whenever I'm coming up with new activities, because he helps me to gauge what is easy for our students and what is difficult. I always thought something like, who was the first president was one of the easiest civics questions. We were driving to Chicago and we're talking about the land of Lincoln and the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation. And I said to him, who was the first president? I don't know. Who was the second president? I don't know. Then I said, okay, who's the current president? Donald Trump. Who's the vice president? Mike Pence. So I realized, oh, current political leaders are actually easier than when we go into US history, because we're working with students who do not have the same cultural frame of reference that we do. And this innate knowledge we have of US history is not something that's easy for them. So actually current leaders are easier than leaders from the past. So he is my one last secret to my success. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have for you today.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Thanks to both of you. We have like just a minute. Anna, are there questions? Or Beth, I don't know who's monitoring the chat today. I know I had one question that maybe you can answer, Caitlin. Do you use a special camera to make your videos or just your phone?
I use my laptop. I create the videos off of PowerPoint. Someplace I want to go from there is, supposedly there's a way that you can get a little like headshot of yourself on the PowerPoint presentation while you're talking.
Mhm.
I haven't figured out how to do that yet, but I would also really like to have the picture of my face so students can see my mouth moving while I'm speaking.
Of course, makes sense. Any other questions? Anna, any other questions in the chat?
Marcia, this is Shannon. I have one question from
Shannon.
John. Yes.
Thank
so
you.
one question John had was, are your students using Zoom mostly on computers or on phones?
Mostly on phones or tablets. There are some that have computers, but now because MPS has resumed virtual learning, most of their children are using the Chromebooks that were provided. So most of them are on their phones, which means you have to ensure that you're using large font for them to read and you're not putting too much text on one PowerPoint slide. Otherwise, it's very small for them when they're trying to read, and you can tell because they squint their eyes and focus very hard.
Okay, anything else, Shannon?
No, that clears up the chat. So very inspirational.
It was. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you who've joined us today. This has been a wonderful fall virtual conference, and we are just pleased that you shared it with us. If you'd like to get in touch with either Cynthia or with Caitlin, you can reach out to me or your regional consultant, and they can.
Marsha, I just wanted to.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Marsha. I just wanted to mention that everybody will get survey links for every session that they've attended. They're super short, should take just a couple of minutes, and we would really, really love feedback. So you should have in your email by this afternoon a link for each session you attended today, and please do take just a couple of minutes to fill them out.
Thank you, Beth. Yeah, that's really super. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Caitlin did an amazing job, and I just want to thank her for not only that, but for all she does here. And I want to hip everyone to this thing. So we've been working really hard to meet a deadline where the U.S. citizenship application fees were going to go up from $640 to $1,170. And part of that new policy was to remove the fee waivers. So our students who are primarily on public assistance, who now do not have to pay the $640 if they meet the fee waiver guidelines, would no longer be eligible for that at an increased price of $1,170. Caitlin worked really hard for about a month and a half or so to get as many students as she possibly could processed through USCIS and their immigration application. Had the injunction 2 days before October 2nd, when this was all supposed to start, thankfully a second judge came in with an injunction. Had that injunction not taken place, and our 29 students would have had to pay $1,170. Caitlin's effort saved them a potential grand whopping total of $33,930. So thank you, Caitlin. You did an amazing job.
Yes,
and that's a boatload of cash.
That's pretty priceless. Yes, it is.
And they are, needless to say, going to appeal this to the Ninth Circuit. If any of you see any opportunity to let them know that this would be quite a hardship for people, we greatly appreciate you letting people know. So thank you, Caitlin, and thank you, Wisconsin Literacy.
Well, thank you. Thanks to both of you for providing us great information during this session. And again, everybody watch for that evaluation form or forms that are coming into your email, and please complete them. Again, thanks so much, and we hope to talk to you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.